So, look, I had a very visceral, emotional reaction when I heard the news yesterday. I was really happy, and it kind of brought home what's been happening over the last sort of 6-8 months. And, I've been very lucky in a lot of ways, my job, and I've been able to work, and so is my wife. But, you're balancing everything, and you can't go to the cinema anymore, all that kind of stuff that we used to do and all that kind of thing, and you miss it. And you didn't really sort of appreciate that until I heard this news yesterday. I thought, amazing. And then I had a look into it, and I'm a big fan of Ben Goldacre's book Bad Science. I've read it a few times. As a medical layperson, it's an instruction manual for how to really understand medical stuff that's in the newspapers and the media in general.
Yes.
And so the first thing I looked for was, okay, so has this data been peer-reviewed and independently verified and published in a medical journal? And of course it hasn't.
Well, it can't have been. And you're right. No. I mean, Pfizer, you're about to say marking their own homework. BioNTech more so than Pfizer. Yeah. And of course, the other reason for a degree of caution is that this doesn't mean you can go out and start breaching lockdown regulations or rolling around other people's houses and endangering everybody you subsequently come into contact with. So, yes, you're quite right.
Yeah.
However,
so I kind of had the opposite reaction to you, which was your kind of...
Oh, you've gone in the other way.
Let's have a look at it. And I've gone the other way, where I've gone... Like,
where did we cross? We can work out where we crossed. We could call that democracy. Where do you think we... So you're on the other side of the motorway, tooling along, and I'm pedalling furiously up this side. And so it is the point at which they start adding layers of evidence to the initial announcement. There's no reason to doubt the initial announcement. 90% is clearly a moment of almost unbelievable joy for the scientists conducting the research, because as I understand it, 90% is wildest dreams territory.
Way more, absolutely.
But you're right. And then there's the other problems as well. I mean, I hesitate to say this, but it's important that we do. My friend Jason Farrell's work at Sky News looking at Primadol, very ugly echoes of thalidomide. And so we do know that if medicine is not properly regulated, properly researched, then huge problems can be presented. But we haven't seen problems like that for decades.
We haven't. And I think there's been a lot of advances to sort that kind of stuff out, because it doesn't do, even as a private company, it doesn't do them any good to put to distribute vaccines that are going to harm people.
No.
But equally, there has to be some caution. I think.
Well, of course there does.
But what's important as well, of course, is that that Pfizer have, in a hope that it was going to work, have produced millions of them, and we have bought millions of them. So if the data, I'll be in the queue. I will have one if the data supports it. And as your first caller said, the communication plan then needs to be good to demonstrate to everybody that this is okay. This is what we've done. This is why it's this much quicker. I think this is the other thing that makes people suspicious, is how fast they've been able to do it. Now, that is probably a result of a global scientific consensus effort to get this thing resolved, because it's costing economies around the world millions and millions, billions of pounds. Yeah. And there's a will to get it done, and everybody's pulled out all the stops.
So you need so oddly we need
to reassure people.
We do, and also I mean, we aren't. It's not going to affect us, is it? I don't think that we're going to steamroller world governments around the world into prematurely putting this vaccine into the public space with our desperation for it and our enthusiasm for it. But it's odd, isn't it? It's also reported today that spreading anti-vaccination myths should be made a criminal offence, and the public should report offenders, says the Royal Society and the British Academy today. So a balance does need to be struck between enthusiasm and embracing and a degree of healthy scepticism. I'd also stress again, if it needs to be done,